Hey y'all, it's your girl Ashley Camille here at Fifth House Bloom, and I'm here to give you the astrology for the week of June 15th through June 21st. If this is your first time to your space or you are returning, welcome and thank you for being here. I am an intuitive advisor and a diviner, and I pretty much channel the unseen to find information to support you in your blooming. I am excited to be recording this. We'll see how it goes, but I decided to because as I've been kind of coming up with the astro reports for the week ahead, I've noticed that when you're looking at it day by day or when transits become exact, a lot is lost in how all of these things work together, right? And the reality of it is that we feel this energy before and after the transits become exact, right? So I'm hoping that I can tell a little bit more of a story, especially given the times that we are in, of how this is impacting us now and how it will continue to impact us. Because just because the transit is done doesn't mean that it is done, right? A lot of this is setting the stage. And I'm hoping that this will offer additional support if we can get a little bit more into it and we can kiki a little bit more about what's going on. Okay. So I'm going to begin just by running through some of the exact transits of this week, and then we'll get a little bit more in depth. Gonna be looking at my notepad because I'm still a pen to paper girly. All right. So I have this written out. On the 15th, we have Mars in Leo square Uranus in Taurus at 28 degrees. Also on the 15th, we have Jupiter in Cancer square Saturn in Aries. On the 17th, Mars will move into Virgo. And on the 18th, Jupiter in Cancer squares Neptune in Aries. And on the 20th, the Sun enters Cancer. Gang, gang. Okay, I'm a Cancer Sun. A Cancer Venus. No, a Cancer Mars, a Cancer Mercury. It's a lot of Cancer in my chart. Okay, so let's start with this Mars square Uranus, right? Because this energy we have already started to feel in the last week. This is explosive. This is chaotic. This is agitating. This is aggressive, right? I'm not a sugarcoater. I'm just telling you how it is, right? And so part of it is that when we know this about the transits and we know what energy could be influencing us or those around, we can prepare ourselves a little bit better, right? So when we have Mars, especially in the sign of Leo, we're talking about our motivation. We're talking about the way we go about getting what we want. This is very kind of individualistic. This is very ego driven. This is very like aggressive. I go after and I get what I want almost at any cost, especially when it is square Uranus, right? Uranus is the planet of freedom. Uranus is the planet of liberation. Uranus is the planet of shaking shit up, right? And so when we have these two together, right, especially in this fixed energy, Leo and Taurus are fixed, right? This kind of stubbornness, ready to butt heads based off of what I say, right? We can't expect that it can be a little bit combustible, okay? And so, um, on an individual level, knowing that, my recommendation is to pause, to check in with yourself, and to also know and to expect that other people might be experiencing this as well. With Mars and Uranus, you might expect an increase in like accidents, right? Because Uranus is the unexpected. You want to be very careful, like as far as like vehicular accidents and things like that, and watching out for road rage. Okay. Um, there's a potential for an increase in violence, right? And so I'd say that even just in the way that people are engaging with one another, whether or not that means like coming to blows, it's just the way that people are approaching things is a lot more aggressive, okay? with the collective energy, the thing that really came to mind was this military parade, and I was concerned that we would see like a lot of violence at the protest, especially given this energy that's coming about, right? With Mars also, especially in Leo, it's giving tyrant, right? It's giving what I want matters most. And so even having the parade, even the very act of it is kind of reflective of this energy, right? I need to read the news for today. I didn't check beforehand to see kind of the outcome. But the other thing that I am hoping to see is that this energy really feels like a spark. It really feels like an ignition. And while it is really prone to violence and while it is prone to like fighting, right? I'm hoping that it can be utilized in order to fight for what we believe in. Now, here's a note. For this transit and all others. I am assuming that if you are here, you are a person who is concerned with the humanity of others and believe that if you are born, you just have a right to liberty and life and wellness and joy. Okay. If you are not, I don't know why the hell you were here. You were at the wrong place. Goodbye and fuck you. But these transits are available. This energy is available to everyone. And people who are concerned with humanity typically have a propensity to feel like everything will work out for the best, right? And I think that can be very disempowering if that is not followed up with action. Because the same energy that is available to us is available to those who are not for the humanity of others. And I started to do these transits and wanted to do these videos because a lot of this energy is supportive of folks and principles and structures and policies that are against the core humanity of people. Okay. And so they tend to work for that shit. They tend to fight against folks, right? For their best interest. And folks who are for the rights, the liberty, the life of humanity have to be able to do the same. And so with this, there are some other again things going on in the sky with this. Because is that Mars or is that Neptune? There's some applying energy to like some supportive energy that is really focused on humanitarianism, or at least at the way that I'm looking at it, right? All of the energy for this week feels like it's setting a tone. All of the energy for this week really feels like it's focused on security, right? And depending on where we are in the week and within these transits, that's looking at protection, that's looking at borders, that's looking at boundaries, right? Almost quite literally when we are talking about the collective energy. And so I am hoping for everyone's safety and to be as cautious as possible is all that I could say, right? As we are moving into this week. I do suspect that there will be continuing developments in regards to the way that, our executive leader is dealing with borders, is dealing with citizenship, is dealing with who is deemed, worthy of being in this country. And I just encourage us all to, really um, not to ignore what is going on. Well, give me a second. I want to see if there is anything else. So I am hoping that if we continue to see developments, that we will be called to action under this, right? That it will, because the energy is supportive of organizing, right? It is supportive of collective collective fights. You just want to make sure that those who are organizing where the collectiveness is happening is in support of your beliefs, especially in regards to humanity. Okay. All right. So on the same day, we have Jupiter in Cancer, square that Saturn in Aries. And this is, I'll start with kind of on the individual level, right? This is kind of like what's the best way to describe it? It's a checkpoint in a way, a checkpoint. Are you growing in a way that is sustainable? Do you have the resource to support what it is you are building? Are you going at a pace that you can continue to maintain and it is supportive of growth? Jupiter is expansion, right? And again, we have this tendency to like think of like, oh, that's so amazing. But if you grow too fast or if you grow too much, you might not be able to keep up with it, right? And so Saturn, which is taskmaster, which is daddy energy, is like, okay, do we have a plan? Are things in order? How is this going to work? And it's the tried and true method, whereas Jupiter is more of like, I just want to see what happens, right? It's like, I want to be on an adventure. I just want to try all of these things out. And in a square, these two clash, right? And so, another thing about while Jupiter is more of a gifter, Saturn is more of consequences. Consequences going both ways. It's really just the result of what your actions are, right? So if you acted responsible, if you did what you needed to do, if you had all of your things in order, right, you are being rewarded by Saturn for that work and for that effort. However, if you ain't doing what you needed to do, Saturn is going to let you know. Okay. And so you might see some, especially with this aspect of the square, this coming out in like a bigger ways, right? Things that you might not have taken care of in the past, now having consequences, right? Did you miss out on a payment and now there is, it's going to collections, or you have like this astronomical like interest, right? Right. Did you forget to sign up for something and now you won't be able to participate in maybe a program or something that was essential for the next step in your career? Things like that, right? It brings consequences to the surface. And a lot of this is to make sure that you are on the right track. All right. And so it's really asking us, do I have enough to complete this well, whatever that is, right? That can be relationships, that can be a project, that can be like whatever that you are working on in your career. Do you have the resource to support what it is that you are doing? And also, is this how I should be allocating my time, my resource, my energy? Okay. This transit really brings all of that into question, and it gives you a pause in order to reassess, reevaluate, restructure in order so that you can build something that is more sustainable and will allow you to hold more of those gifts. So we're watching out for stuff like that today. And collectively, when we have Cancer is concerned with like homeland, right? And so the way that I'm kind of looking at this transit is, our borders and nationalism, to be quite frank, and this idea of who belongs. Cancer, that nurturing, and Cancer is like the mother archetype of the zodiac, right? And it's like, who belongs to me? I do still have some concerns in regards to the overall energy of this week, especially like with the way that these squares are happening, because mama like to fight for what is hers. Okay. And so right now, especially, in the US and everywhere, in so many places, this redefining or the way that certain folks are saying who belongs and who doesn't. I have some concerns about what that looks like, as there has been this increase in deportations and holding people. We are being called into question. This is all being called into question. This is all being brought to the surface. And I think that, like, I'm kind of speaking outside of this transit and more about this Jupiter in Cancer that will be there in the year. Jupiter is exalted here, right? It wants us to get the benefits of it. Again, when I am saying like this energy is going to happen, whether we do something or not, I think there is a lot of support with Jupiter being in Cancer for us to redefine who belongs, for us to expand who belongs, for us to offer more care, more nurturance collectively, right? But that has to be organized. Action has to take place behind it. I also think that there is some potential and some support if we lean into the Cancer as roots, right? Indigenous wisdom and knowledge, our ancestry. There is so much wisdom. There are so many tools when we go back to our roots, when we operate from the principles of who we are as a people, especially when it comes to community, especially when it comes to care, right? And so I do think that while the cosmos is book wild crazy right now, right? There's still some support there for us, and I am hoping and I'm feeling that if we can tune in and tap in to the gifts of Jupiter in Cancer, there is a lot of support there in being able to expand our definitions of what it is to care for folks and who it is that we care for, right? Bringing more folks in. Now, with that, I think there's also a potential for more things to occur or to escalate in regards to who belongs, right? So, and then with Jupiter, which deals with judges and the judicial system going up, going up against Saturn, which is, structure, which is the foundation, which is like the norm, which is like what is already in place. And also Saturn is quite literally like the people who work the land, right? The people who are maintaining these systems. I am um this is feeling like to me a continuation of a test of our checks and balances system, right? Especially between the judicial and the executive branches, right? So I do think that there might be like things in regards to legislation that are coming into question, like, or that there is more just there's this tension, the best way I could describe it, between our systems, like our judicial system, our executive system, like all the systems. It is a tension, okay? It is a tension, and that we will see that coming out in policies and practices. Let me see my notes. What else do I have here? Yes, as well as like the ideology of our nation coming up for review and the way that we have approached all of this, right? I think there could be incidents that spark us into action, that become so outrageous that we are we have to decide how we want to act moving forward. And so moving forward, I'm just going to jump to the Jupiter square Neptune because it's related, right? And so Neptune and Saturn are starting to form a conjunction. I don't think that it will be exact until sometime in 2026, February. But again, we're already starting to feel the energy. A thing does not have to be like right there in order for us to be influenced by it. And especially with these being our generation, like some of our energy that affects us more collectively, we are already starting to feel this. Okay. Um, and when we have Neptune, which is the dissolver, which is more of the collective, which is high spirituality, ideology, and all of this coming into Saturn, coming into contact with Saturn, which is like, oh, we got to get some order to all of this, right? So we have like this structure. We have this thing that wants everything to be clearly defined, right? We have this thing that wants order. And then here we have the dissolver. And so with all of this coming into contact, especially with Jupiter, the expander, it's really bringing into question, are our systems working? Where do we need more structure? Where does it need to be dissolved? Where are it's a stress test, and I mentioned this last time, right? Like events and things are coming into our awareness, are becoming real for us because it is putting these systems to the test. That is individually, that is collectively. Right. So the way that, let's talk about it a little bit more on the individual level, right? This could be your routines. This could be the way that you manage your money. This could be the way that you are in your relationships, right? And if you have certain patterns and if you have certain ways of engaging that are not sustainable, that are not allowing for growth and are not allowing for expansion, they will start to unravel. Okay, it is starting to unravel. Let's get more into specifically the energy of Jupiter square Neptune. Here it is kind of an energy of not knowing your limits. It is an energy of overindulgence. This is the energy of escapism. This is the energy of extremes. We also want to watch out. I say like questionable morality, right? Um, on this day, this week in general, this is not a good time to be making major decisions. This is not a good time to be making major decisions. This is not a good time to be starting and engaging in anything new. This is not the time to shake up how you've been doing something, right? And so Jupiter square Neptune, especially in regards to like your investments and your finances. Um, well, you want to watch for scams. You want to watch for people selling dreams. You want to watch out for things that feel too good to be true because under this energy, hell, it's questionable, right? And so I'm not saying that like these things aren't a reality necessarily, but it's more difficult to evaluate, and it's a lot more likely that that energy, like this is scammer energy. It is fake guru energy. A lot of illusions and things taking place. So if things are coming up around this, just pause on it, just hold it, just ask, can I come back to that next week, 2 weeks, whatever, right? Like allow some space and some time for this to come through so that you can kind of see like, all right, is this really going to deliver on what it is promising for me? Um, it can be a bit demoralizing for some, but then on the other end of that, I want to watch out for like fake positive, not fake, excuse me, like over overly positive, bypassing essentially, right? We're here, it's just kind of like, oh, everything is fine, everything will work out, da 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 da. We still want to be grounded in our realities, right? And so for the energy this week in general, being grounded, allowing space for a pause, giving yourself the space to not have to respond, react, or make a decision in the moment because the energy is so active, right? Or activating is really what I would want to say. Okay. I'm going to say this with a bit of a caveat. I like squares. We have a lot of squares this week. All of them are like our exact changes of squares. Personally, it's my favorite aspect, right? Like it creates tension, but tension can be good for things, right? Tension can be motivating. Tension drives us to action. We can utilize tension. I like this. This is for my certified freaks only. I like this for a little bit of play, especially if when we're looking at the dynamics of power. Um, Potentially like exploring with power play when it comes to intimacy. Let me just say intimacy, right? I would avoid restraints since this is like more accident prone energy. And if this is something that you are not familiar with and it is not already a part of the way that you play, I'm gonna say hold off. I'm gonna say hold off, okay? But for my certified freaks, there could be like a lot of ways to use this tension to engage in a little bit of play. As far as relationships, again, things are heightened right now. Some things might be coming to your awareness of, oh, this might need to be addressed in my relationship. This is something that needs to be handled. But again, I offer you a pause. You can come back to it, okay? Allow what is coming through to be revealed, allow it to be information. But if you can, create some time and create some space for you to be able to really process. This is not a good time to be making major decisions about, something that could potentially change your life. Anything else? Oh, and so I'll talk a little bit about like Mars entering into Virgo and then the sun entering into Cancer. This is more about like how we can utilize energy, right? With Mars and Virgo, very great for like organizing our thoughts, very good for coming up with a plan, finding solutions to your problems, getting shit done in order to move forward to the next step. Caution with this around a focus on perfectionism. There will also be a wanting to get everything right, to get everything perfect, and that could like stop you from just going ahead and getting started and getting it done. So just remember that it is more important to get started and you can perfect and you can tinker as you go along. But this is if you already have some kind of outstanding project or outstanding goal, this is a good time to refine it. This is a good time for making things that are already there better, right? And as we talked about with this Jupiter square Saturn, and the Jupiter square Neptune, that, those things might be getting revealed to us where our systems just cannot hold us and they cannot support us. And then I mentioned a little bit about, like the Cancer energy with Jupiter, but here's tenderness, it's nurturing. Cancers don't get enough credit for sex. It's juicy, right? This is a water sign. So, leaning in to that love, more that unconditional love, leaning into that nurturance, leaning into that tenderness. And as always, the energy for next week is just as buck wild, right? Next week, the sun will come right behind Jupiter to square Saturn Aries and the Neptune Aries. So I'm also expecting that some of the things that are coming up, especially collectively, will continue into next week. And so I say all that I want to encourage you as much as possible to continue to offer yourself tenderness, to continue to nurture yourself, to continue to lean into love, and to do so without guilt. These will be the things, this will be the energy that sustains us. Okay, I am fifth house bloom because I believe very firmly the fifth house is, to me, what makes life worth living. It's pleasure, it's children, it's creativity, it's self-expression. These are the things that we will be fighting for, and these are the things that will sustain us. So as much as possible, allow yourself to experience that, because that will be what fuels us moving forward as we are going through all of these things. So let me see. Overall, if I could summarize the energy of this week, I think it is about safety. I think it is about protection. And I think it is about our boundaries and borders, right? And so we are really coming into a time of how do these things hold up against pressure? And how do we want to define them for a more expansive, a more loving future moving forward, right? But we have to be the ones who lean into it. We have to be the ones who utilize it for ourselves as an individual and moving forward, especially with this overarching Saturn and Neptune conjunction. I've spoken on this before in some of the past writings. This is really, for me, kind of given heroes versus the villains, right? Will you be your own hero? Who are we protecting? What are we protecting? But I also want to remind you that in order to be your own hero, that makes you someone else's villain. So we have to make sure that we are choosing the battles and choosing our fights and choosing the appropriately. Okay, y'all. Let me know what you think of this. If you like the videos, if you need more details, always open to feedback. All right, I'll see you in the comments. Bye.